Welcome back again to another edition of the Fixed Ops Mastermind, powered by OEM Interactive. And this week, we are talking remote/mobile service. Call it what you will. It's getting outside the dealership and servicing your customers the way that certain customers want to be taken care of. All right, at the dealership level, that's what we're here to do. Take care of the customers the way they want to be taken care of. And not driving them down the funnel that we have chosen. Today, our guest, Jeremy Stevens, Bozard Ford, the Remote Operations Director, and John Schmidt, CEO of Mobile Next Level. We did have another guest, Jim Sabino from All American Ford, but luckily, he has a wife like mine that keeps him straight and said, did you forget we need to move our daughter out of college today? So Jim had to back out, but we will get him on another episode. We have two guests that can carry the show here easily. So, guys, I appreciate you being here, and I know everybody is looking forward to a great show. This show is brought to you by Parts Edge, and we will tell you a little more about Parts Edge a little bit later in the show. And so now we're going to start in segment one that we're doing on the show this week is why mobile service? Why would anybody want to do mobile service? And so a Cox Automotive study showed in 2023, the average owner had their vehicle in for service or maintenance 2.5 times a year, up from 2.3 in 2021, the last time that they actually released that study, right? But it was down from an average of 2.8 in 2018, which was pre-pandemic. So dentists suggest that you get your teeth cleaned twice a year, right? Which is about what that service average is. And I'll be honest, I struggle to do it. I don't like doing it. I oftentimes forget that I had an appointment until I look on my calendar and then I'm like, I can't get there today. And so if my dentist was a mobile unit and showed up at my house at the time of that appointment, I'm probably much more likely to get it done. And I think the same holds true for service. And so, Jeremy, we'll start with you. Do you think having mobile service helps the business gain more customers, or are you just servicing the same customers that would have come into the store?
It's really both, because if you think about where we work at a dealership, so part of me, I work in sales because I sell cars, and I sell cars based on providing them great service, and our customers have been screaming for years that they don't want to come to service. Everybody loves to buy a car, they love that experience, but if something goes wrong with that, they really don't want to come back. It's so inconvenient now, and what we've seen with CSI and our customers' response is pretty cool, because now every day I'll get a positive comment from a customer that says, hey, I really enjoyed your guys. They were top notch. It comes in through our surveys. Our techs get called out by name. So our customers absolutely love it. So it definitely helps us out with our main shop, but it absolutely helps us with, selling cars.
That's terrific. I love the look of that. And that's the reason that we're out there doing that, right? Is so that our customers can be happy with what we're delivering to them. But it's good to know that it's not, it's gaining new customers. It's not just servicing the same customers, right? So you didn't just add a cost structure to the business, an expense to the business that you didn't have before. You actually added a new revenue stream along with that. So John, your company deals with the actual, I'm going to call it scheduling, but the routes that mobile units are taking.
Mm-hmm.
How important is that in mobile service?
I think it's critical. I mean, when you think about the amount of time spent on the road, anything that you can do to reduce the number of minutes and miles, you've got to push forward with. I mean, Jeremy and Ed would probably attest to that. It's really critical. I see a lot of dealers who do not have an efficient scheduling system, and they'll spend a big piece of their day driving. Because, you know, one of the first things that I learned, and I'm just going to kind of give some context. I was one of the original Ford Mobile Service trainers from back in 2020 when Ford first came out of proof of concept and said, okay, we're going to do this thing. We need some trainers, you know, and I was one of the original guys. And one of the things that they taught us in our T3 was density and proximity of appointments. And they just drilled it into our heads. Get the dealers getting their appointments clustered together. Density and proximity, that's how you make money. And it really astonishes me to this day, because I do coach dealers as well. I'm in dealers on-site coaching and remote coaching. And I see, and what I'll do is I'll take their route and I'll take their, whether it's a spreadsheet or I'll even take a printout from their DMS, and I'll say, let's look at your mobile appointments from last week, or let's look at what you got coming up. And I'll chart those appointments. And it's really inefficient. I mean, even a really good mobile service coordinator who's accomplished and pretty savvy, they're still going to have a bad day where they're having a bad hair day and they've sent someone 40 miles to do a 3/10 reprogram. It happens. And that's why it's just really important that you're mindful of keeping your drivers, keeping your technicians in the same area. It's almost like put all your horses in the corral, right? And then take care of them inside the corral, but don't chase them all over the neighborhood because you let them out of the barn, I guess, to use a crazy colloquialism. So,
yes, I mean, we've definitely got to eliminate drive time, right? That's cars aren't getting serviced. If the tech was in the dealership, that's the same as them standing at parts or standing in their bay waiting for a part or waiting for an answer, right? It's not time where they're producing.
The collateral damage in that is that, we would see a lot of technician turnover, initially coming out of the chute. A lot of dealers were going with flat rate pay plans, and they just couldn't make them work because they didn't have efficient scheduling. So that's been a challenge since day one. It's still a struggle for a lot of dealers, but to sustain the business and grow it, you got to have efficient scheduling.
Absolutely. So for those in our industry, we talked offline before we came on. I had done a poll on LinkedIn about mobile service, and I had a throw-in answer for number 4, which it asked about mobile service and how many vehicles you use, and the throw-in answer was something to the effect of none, don't see the value of it. And amazingly, that got almost 50% of the votes. And I'm taken aback by that the industry still looks at it that way. And so, Jeremy, what do you see as the importance of mobile service to our industry?
So it's definitely kind of different. And a lot of times we just get stuck in our old thinking of, this is how we do business, and that we force our customers into how we want business, basically. And you look at any successful business and you can sustain that for a little bit, but there's really no long-term advantage on it. So we look at it through our customers' lenses, where what do they really want and what can help the, whole, create this customer experience second to none.
Mm-hmm.
But what it also does, we do a number of appointments every single day, and I take those appointments away from our main shop. And what that does, that just feeds the main shop. So nobody's even looking at that side of it, to where you have a technician's elbow deep in a transmission and you're going to pull him off to do a 2/10 or 3/10 recall. And when I was a technician, that would just ruffle my feathers and it just ruined my whole day. So now I can keep that technician working on those big jobs in the shop, keep that momentum going up. When I have my team out there doing the stuff that nobody wants to do in the main shop anyway, and our customers absolutely, they want more of it. So it's been cool to see that evolve. And as we keep growing it, we're just seeing, it's just, there's no written playbook. We don't even know what we can't do so far. We're just adding stuff to it every single day. And that's the cool part.
To dovetail onto what Jeremy said, Dave, we call it addition by subtraction. You'll hear a lot of old school service managers and FODs say, oh, it's robbing Peter to pay Paul. Actually, it's doing two things. To Jeremy's point, by taking these small jobs out of the shop, by subtracting them from the shop, you're enabling your A techs to do A-level work. And that's where you churn big gross. And also when you've got that van out in there in the community and you're taking care of those jobs, that's not robbing Peter to pay Paul. That's a bird dog. And I'm sure that Jeremy and Ed would attest to Jeremy's earlier point. You're bringing back business to the shop that you wouldn't have gotten. You said earlier in the podcast, are these the same customers, or are they new customers? And Jeremy's correct, they're both. But especially with fleets, you're getting fleets now that you could never get before because you've got the mobile service, which is the X factor.
Mm. Yeah, that is interesting to me, but because there's a lot of times when a dealership couldn't touch fleet service, right? It was too bulky. There was no way to. The fleets weren't going to bring all their trucks to you, or if they were going to really tie up your service lot and just make a mess of things. And so this really has opened up a different way to go about servicing a customer that previously was getting their stuff done elsewhere, right? Unless it was warranty work where they had to come to the dealer. Other stuff, it was easier to get somebody to go to them and do it. And now we can service those customers.
Yeah. Hey, Dave, if you don't mind, I'd like to circle back to a previous point you said. You said a lot, over about 50% said, what's the value in it?
Yeah.
What's fascinating to me about that is when I think about my own personal situation, I think about, I get my movies streamed to me. I get my music streamed to me. People have their groceries delivered. Amazon's at my door, just like everybody else, every single day. I'm not sure how these fellas and ladies can look at mobile and be receiving all these remote services, but yet not want to deliver them back to their customers. I'm astonished by that. I don't know. To me, it'd be like, why don't you pay it forward, man? You're getting all this convenience, be thinking about, to Jeremy's point, look through the customer's lens and what do they see? And we all know, man, I was a service manager for 25 years, FOD. People just don't like to be in the dealership, regardless of how good your cappuccino is and how big your TV is. They just don't.
It's very true. For a long time, we built Taj Mahal dealerships, right? That had everything from coffee shops to nail salons in them. And the reality is nobody is sitting at home going, oh, I think I'll go down to the dealership and get a coffee today. Right? It's just not happening.
Hey, that I was in a Cadillac store for a couple of years and that still happens. So
that's a demographic, I'll say. So if dealership service lanes account for 30% of all the service visits in the US, which is down from 35% in 2021, and general repair and service stations are behind that at 28%. Dealership. I don't know if I started the sentence out properly. Dealership service lanes account for 30%, which is down from 35% in 2021. And general repair and service stations, so aftermarket shops, are coming in at 28%. So as we just talked about, trust and convenience are in my opinion, are a reason for that, right? There's things that they get at their local service station, whether the person servicing their car is competent or not. They get a friendly greeting. They get to talk to that person. They get a phone call from that person. When they pick up their car, it's from that person, right? There's a relationship that's getting built there. And so how can we use mobile service to combat that? Because mobile service, like I have to, and I'm only going to make an assumption here, Jeremy, that your technicians are probably servicing the same area so that they know the area, understand the area. So over time, they're going to start to see the same customers, right? And they're going to start to get to build that trust. Is that true? Is that something that you see?
So two different scenarios. On the fleet side, absolutely. Those guys build a relationship with the fleet managers and stuff, and they request them by name. And what's pretty cool, whether it's a fleet or a customer, they know all the technicians' name, and definitely on the fleet side, because they like to they just connect with those guys. Even if it's a new place that we never been, I usually send my fleet technicians just to walk in the back door because they don't know any better, and they get a contact and they can grow the business easier than I can walking in with a polo shirt, because they can see me a mile away. But and on the customer side, the technicians are sitting there chatting with the customers, and most of the time they're out there watching, and it's easy for them to show them. It's like, hey, this is leaking, or whatever it is. And you have that instant value right there that we never had, because it's been over a phone call, and it's just, hey, come out here and look at it. Um, we had an example a couple weeks ago where, the father and son was out there looking at the car, and one of the technicians let them torque the wheels after they did a tire rotation, which created that once in a lifetime moment for that kid. And it's like, you can't get that at the dealership, because we got the insurance pictures on the wall that says, hey, nobody's allowed back here, it's top secret kind of thing. So this is fully transparent, fully exposed out in the yard, and even the neighbors see it. We got our van out there, and the neighborhoods around here are ginormous. So you just get all that, and it's the curiosity. It's like, hey, what's that guy doing in your driveway and stuff like that. So it has this huge ripple effect.
Yeah, that's terrific. So John, on your side, what the convenience and trust that's getting built up, right?
Yeah.
So
let's circle back to what you said, because he brought a great point, and you did too. That old timey gas station feeling, to where you got to talk to the mechanic, right? Yep. People miss that. I mean, gosh, we've all been in the business for a long time. How many times did a customer come up to you and say, hey, I want to talk to the mechanic? And you got the chain up on the door, and you got the sign and this and that. But here's what's really cool about this. While most of society is moving away from human contact, and they're kind of, like it or not, I mean, I don't really like it, but let's face it, let's be realistic. This generation to social media and virtual reality, I'm not sure if they're into reality or not. I don't think that they are. So for those folks, you can provide a touch-free experience, and you got it made with mobile. Yep. For the folks who want to talk to someone, you've got a venue, you've got an opportunity for that to happen too. And to his earlier point, I got to keep going back to what Jeremy said, because it's spot on. It's single handling. Where things get messed up in a dealership is when you've got a bunch of different people. You got a greeter, you got a porter, you got a service advisor, a technician, cashier, the car wash guy. You got all these hitches, all these places where this job can get hung up. And that's why oil changes take 3 hours in a lot of dealerships, And what's beautiful about the mobile experience is, technically one guy could do everything. Now, not every dealer has the technicians collecting, the money or whatever, but you could have one person talking to this customer, and people like that, because I think there's a genuine lack of trust. Not in terms of from an integrity standpoint necessarily, even though that's another subject that we could talk about for 3 hours. I think there's a lack of trust that people are going to execute. Look at full service car washes. What have happened to them in the last 5 years? Why do you think all the full service car washes are going out of business, and everybody's doing a drive-through and vacuuming out their own car? Because they don't want to wait 2 hours for a car wash, because half the crew called in sick, and they're sitting on the bench drinking a soda, watching the rest of the crew working. They can control their experience by driving through. I know I'm going down a rabbit hole here. My point is the less humans you get involved, the better the experience typically is. So.
Yeah, and your point is valid, where you can provide the experience that the customer wants. If they want a touchless mobile experience, completely possible, right? Or if they want the experience like Jeremy described, where they're in the driveway and they're watching and they're talking and they're letting their kid watch and things. Look, I remember my parents bought an LTD, and we went to the dealership. That the building still stands, but it's falling apart. And it's a tiny little building. It's amazing what dealerships used to look like. And my dad went there for an oil change, and the owner of the dealership was like, does he want to go up in on the lift in the car? And I was like, yeah. They did the oil change with this 5-year-old little kid sitting up in the car, right? And that was, I mean, we're not going to do that, but you can
Oh,
still
good.
give people the experience.
Dave, a lot of listeners are probably not going to know what the heck you're talking about at LTD.
An LTD. So what they can picture is a Carnival cruise line with wheels on it, because that's about how big that thing was.
We used to call those square bodies.
Yeah.
Round it off. Hey, here comes a square body. You know, everybody with all the advisors would get excited. You know, when they came in.
Oh man, yeah, that was a big car.
Oh yeah.
So the average dealership service visit in 2023 was $258. A visit at a non-dealer was $249. Number one, I want to point out that's not a very big difference between a dealer and an aftermarket for everybody who believes aftermarket is way cheaper than a dealership. But how does the cost of mobile service compare to either in dealership or that aftermarket visit? Is it comparable? Is it higher? Is it lower? There's a convenience there, which sometimes you pay for that convenience. Sometimes that convenience would appear to give you a better deal. So Jeremy, where do we fall on that scale?
So currently, we're just matching what we sell our products at the dealership with. So we don't include any fees or anything like that. We're really building and developing this team so we can, really outserve our customers on that part of it. So right now, our prices are exactly the same that they are in dealerships.
Wow, that's big right there. That's actually not an answer that I expected. I would have expected that there was some sort of fee that came with it for that convenience, right? John, you mentioned Amazon's at your house every day delivering stuff, and you probably pay that Amazon Prime fee for that, right? You pay something for that.
Of course. Yeah, and I've got a new habit now. Before I go to bed, I check the front porch before I go to bed. I didn't have to do that before. There's always something on the porch. But
you're always surprised. It's like, hey, what did I order on Amazon? And it's like you always have to go back.
Yeah, my wife says that's called primnesia. When you got what you ordered.
That's great.
I can speak to that. What you guys just said.
Yeah,
the value of it, and that's really a business decision. Bozard Ford Lincoln has opted to make it the same as their regular pricing, which I'm a proponent of that. I've seen dealers add a trip fee or a convenience fee. I've also seen them build a separate menu just for mobile that packs in some dollars for that. I don't think we need to be super modest about it. It's a premium service. And as I like to say in these talks I give sometimes, what's it called? Time is the new luxury currency, right?
Yeah.
People that can buy a new car typically have more money than time. So when you give back some time, that's more valuable than a few extra bucks.
Yeah. Well, which goes back to sitting at the dealership, having a coffee and whatever else, getting a haircut. I wouldn't get a haircut at a dealership, but some people would. All right. So we're going to take a quick break here before we get into segment two. Segment two, we're going to talk about how does it work? How does mobile service work? How do you guys actually make that work out for the customers? But before we get into that, segment two is brought to you by Parts Edge. Your parts department is the backbone of your dealership and is responsible for nearly half of your total profits, according to NADA. Our system works within your DMS for a hybrid approach that combines the precision of automation with the nuanced decision-making of parts experts. Thank you very much, Parts Edge, for bringing us this segment of how does it work. And so, Jeremy, gonna start with you. Take us through a little bit of how does a typical mobile service visit actually happen?
All right. So you want to start from when a customer contacts the dealership? Is that where you want to start at?
Yeah, let's start with how they schedule an appointment.
Okay. So right now they call into our communication center and they're prompt to ask they go ahead and stage it up. So they're like, hey, are you calling about mobile service? So we try to get it right out the bat. And plus it gives it, that option, we're talking about it more.
Mm-hmm.
So they schedule it on our mobile scheduler. And pretty much from that point, our service advisor looks at that schedule. They kind of dial it into the areas to make sure they're efficient. So we're actually staging them at that point and calling the customer a day before, letting them know, hey, tomorrow, Ian's going to be there from this time to this time. And, when the technician's on the way, they call the customer, let them know they'll be there in 30 minutes. And as soon as they get to that point, they greet the customer, they do their walk around checking for damages, and they start doing whatever service they have with the MPIs and, whatever it is they're doing.
Mm-hmm.
And pretty much they're rolling into that. And about 80%, when they're finished with 80%, they're contacting our service advisor to go ahead and start the paperwork and contacting the customer, reviewing everything and make sure everything's fine. If there's payment to collect, we collect it then. Technician at that point is cleaning up the stuff and staging everything on that point and hands the key back to the customer, and they're headed off to the next appointment. It sounds easy. It sounds easy when I say it out loud like
I don't know why everybody isn't doing it. It's so simple. And so John, we'll kick this one over to you too, because so they get an appointment scheduled, right? But the truck needs to know where to go and where to go first and who they're going to see, right? And that's a big part of what you're involved in.
Yeah, there's a lot that goes into that. Like I said, it really starts with appointment clustering first, to try to get that group of appointments together to begin with. And that way your route optimization within that small circle is much more efficient, obviously, than a route optimization in a big circle. So what we train dealers and coach dealers to do is to create what I call geo zones and assign specific units to those zones. And it's like little baskets, collect them in those baskets. So each day the technician or the unit has, enough appointments in their zone to keep them busy. What's also good about it is if you see that one of your baskets is low, maybe an upcoming couple of days, you get your BDC reps or whoever your folks are to do outbound calls and focus on maybe either connected vehicle report or the FSA list or, maybe your CVC smart leads list, and try to focus on businesses or customers who are in that zone that were maybe a little light on appointments. So it's really about becoming proactive and trying to control our schedule versus having our schedule controlled for us. That's one of the things I try to preach to my dealers when I coach them is, we're early on in this. We're early on in the life of mobile service. We still have an opportunity to set the tone and gently to guide people that, hey, Mrs. Jones, I wish our van was in your neighborhood every day, but we're only there Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. Which one of those is the best for you? Or we're only there Tuesday and Saturday or whatever. Now's the time to set that tone and try to take a little bit of control of that back. I realize that, we're really there to serve, but we can also serve and make it a win-win to where we're efficient while we're doing it. So I'm a big proponent of trying to gain control of that and try to put them in baskets. And folks, as we talked about earlier, if it's a mobile service appointment, your vehicle is sitting, you've committed, you're going to set your vehicle somewhere for a period of time. Does it matter if it's a Tuesday or Wednesday? If your schedule's if you work at the same place every day, probably not. We just need to we've got to have a really good script to where we delicately guide them and make them feel like it was still their decision. So.
Yeah. And I love what you brought up there of how early we are in this and that we can really set the tone and really set the direction of how this goes and how customers perceive the mobile service side of things, right? We get to be the experts in mobile service for customers. There's going to be other companies that come into the space, right? But we get to be the experts, and if we're good and on our game, we should be out in front of all of that.
Sure.
With the resources that we have to make that happen. Let's talk about physically how this happens. What kind of trucks do we need? What kind of equipment is on the trucks? And so if Jim was here, Jim's from up in New York. I was hoping Jim could weigh in on some weather and different trucks that he has, because you Jeremy, you're down in Florida, and you know the 12 minutes of rain you get a day is the weather you have to deal with. Up here in New England, we get stuff called snow, and it requires a different vehicle to get to the customers. But let's stick with the trucks that you guys have down there, and what kind of equipment is on them.
So right now we have, of course, the transit vans, and they're equipped a little bit different on all the vans. We have some vans that are solely for fleet that has the bulk tanks in there, but then the other vans, they're a little bit versatile. They can do oil changes and recalls. You know, the equipment kind of varies throughout of it. We have a key machine in one. We'll probably end up getting another key machine to add to another one. So a lot of the stuff we don't know yet, because we're having some tools. Some trucks we have way too many stuff that we'll never use, and so we're just trying to iron a lot of the stuff out to see what actually works out in the field. Because this, I make a joke with our team, because it's like everything changes every 4 hours in mobile, because nobody really knows how to navigate through all this stuff. So we're kind of learning as we fly with it. But it's been pretty cool to just trying to adapt to different things. But the tools vary. Like we have some escapes, and they're loaded up totally different. They're more software, interior pieces, and stuff like that. Like I said, we got dual wheel transit that has all the fleet equipment on there for the bulk. When we can do about 20 in one day, basically in one setting. Wow. So a little bit of variance throughout all of it.
Okay. So I'm interested in the key machine part of it. Tell me a little more about what brought that about, because I'm guessing somebody didn't just go, oh, we should put a key machine in.
There's just there's a demand on it, and I didn't realize how big it was until I started looking back at. I was looking at the appointments and the communication center. It's like, hey, can we do a key thing? And it seems like we have a lot of keys, and we already had one already equipped, and we really weren't talking about it. So we're starting to talk about it more, and it's like, there's a bigger opportunity on keys than I thought there was. I mean, you have key people at your dealership all the time.
Yeah.
And we even toyed about having an AC machine on one of the vans, and we looked into that. And there, the demand for AC, if it's an AC job, it's usually a heavy job, so we don't have a lot of seals and little hoses that leaks anymore. It's more of a major component. So just looking to see what we can add on. What can we, do mobily, basically.
Hey, Dave.
Interesting. Go ahead, John.
Really quick. The thing that I'm seeing also with keys that ties into that is I see dealers doing very well with body shops. Keys, recalibration, post accident, for malfunction lights. If you stop and think about a collision shop, they got a vehicle that's almost done, but it's not quite done, and maybe it's not drivable. They got to flatbed that vehicle to the dealership to get those calibrations done. The expense of that alone would prompt them to want to pay a premium for mobile service. So I know a lot of dealers who are actually doing very well calling on collision centers, just doing the keys, malfunction lights, and recalibrations.
Yeah, it's a great point. Certainly, one of those. I think that's one of those opportunities that maybe you don't know. Mm-hmm. You don't know what you don't know, right? That's it's a hassle for that body shop to have to tow that car over to you just so you can program a key for them, so they can either have two people there to drive it back or tow it back again, right? But either way, it's not convenient.
We talk about that a lot in when I'm with my dealers, because we're always looking for really creative ways to communicate our message to these commercial fleets. And so we created a flyer called the True Cost of Maintenance, where you take, just going to use round numbers here. Let's say Bozard Ford Lincoln is $100 for a works package, and Jiffy Lube is $79. Well, you got to take it to Jiffy Lube or the dealer or ISP. You got your guy you're paying $25 or $30 an hour driving it down there, sitting in the lounge drinking coffee for a couple of hours, or at least an hour plus drive time. So you have to add that to the cost of that service. Plus, what is your lost revenue on that unit when it's sitting in the dealership versus Ford Lincoln coming out before hours, after hours, or even during, and you're not losing that downtime. So you do the math on that, and that $100 service might cost you $250 when you really stop and think about what you're paying to send your vehicle outside versus having mobile service come in.
Right. Yeah. There's ancillary costs that don't show up on the invoice. Right. So
yeah. And
right.
I think remind them of that, because a business owner, just like a manager in a dealership, sometimes we only look at the checks that we write. We don't look at the opportunity cost, right? So that's why we got to forefront.
Yeah. All right. Quick break for our quote of the day, a quote of the week, excuse me. And this is brought to us by Parts Edge. Be ready to revise any system, scrap any method, abandon any theory if the success of the job requires it. Mr. Henry Ford. Again, brought to you by Parts Edge. And I find this pretty relevant to what we're talking about here. Right. And Jeremy, you were just talking about it with the fact that every 4 hours, the mobile industry is changing, right? What is required, what isn't required, what equipment is on my truck that I haven't used in the last 3 weeks, what piece of equipment isn't on the truck that I've needed every day in the last 3 weeks. Lots of different things to consider there. How many customers can one mobile unit service? And I know that's an open question with a whole lot of things that get attached to it. But let's take an average. One mobile service, 1 day or in 1 week. How many customers is that mobile unit going to service?
So one van per month, one van. So we look at, we try to do four repair orders per day per van, basically.
Okay.
I do have some Saturday trucks on, Saturday calls, but usually that one van on average could do about 90 a month, basically.
Okay.
And here's the thing is we're not 100% effective at it either yet. So that number is just, and like I said, we're still like every 4 hours, everything changes. We run into different scenarios. So right now we could increase that to 5 easy. It just depends on the job flows. And, like right now we're in true development mode now. So we're working to try to get 5 on, but we have some of our fleet vans that can do, 10 to 20 in 1 day. So it kind of varies a little bit on that. So you got some that really maximizes, and then some that, can do 4 or 5 a day. So that's pretty much where the numbers end up.
Okay. And just for perspective's sake, how many mobile units do you guys have running each day?
Right now we have 19.
Okay. All right. Just so I can put a number to my head, 19 would 4 a day. I'm not going to do that math, but it's a bunch. And so John, now we're back in your area of expertise. How do we maximize those numbers that those vans can do?
Well, again, density and proximity is the way it starts. Obviously, I sound like a broken record, but really is when you stop and think about the percentage of a technician's day that they spend driving, you've got to really do whatever you can to minimize that, and also have the right mix of work. To Jeremy's point, if you're running around doing works packages which are not super efficient. I mean, let's face it, we got handicaps when we have to do it mobile. That's not as efficient as say doing a 3/10 reprogram or whatever, or going to a fleet yard and doing 10 oil changes at a time. So the best thing we can do is make sure our technicians are trained, that we've got the right mix of work, the best mix we can get. And also, it's like the old, if you've ever been in retail, and I'm not talking about car retail, but like, mall retail, like as a kid, how many multi-ticket items or single ticket items tickets did you have with one item? It's always about trying to do some extra stuff. How effective is your MPI? Are we doing a really good job of presenting air filters and wiper blades and testing batteries and finding weak batteries while we're out there? I think that's the area where, and I'm going to say this as a coach, I think I could do better with my dealers pushing that for them, because I don't think as a dealer body, and this is no reference to Bozard whatsoever, because we're not doing that together. We know each other and all that, but a lot of the dealers I've worked with, it's been a challenge doing a really good job with an MPI and getting the fruit from that. And I think that there's a big opportunity for improvement there.
Excellent. Yeah, some good insight there. And so now let's talk a little bit. We talked a little bit about scheduling and things, but how do we determine who gets mobile service? Because Jeremy, you said your communication center, when the customer calls in, they're asking, are you calling for mobile service or not? But maybe they don't know, right? They're calling to get service, and maybe it's you calling for mobile service, and they go, what's mobile service? I didn't know I could get that. And so how do we determine who gets mobile service? And then I got follow-up questions on that after that.
So several answers with that. So the first one is, we work with the communication very well on, the stuff that we can very much do, but then also the stuff that we know we can't do, we still send our mobile people out there. So I'll give you a scenario. Check engine light. Could we do it? We don't know, because we don't know all the information, but it's either I send my guy out there and let me take a look at it, or I don't want them to sit out there 3 or 4 weeks trying to get it into the main shop. So we're going to go out there and at least try to diagnose it, even because I had to tell my guys, I want to send you to situations knowing that you can't fix this vehicle, but for the customer experience part, I need to go ahead and start looking at that, because you may not be able to fix it out in the field, but at least you can put your eyes on it and make sure it's nothing simple. And if I need to order a part, at least I can go ahead and order that part and stage it and get that customer in, instead of, the old way of doing it is, let's get the customer in. Let me take your car for 2 or 3 days. Let me order a part and let's see if it comes in. Oh, no, if it didn't come in, you want to pick your car up or whatever. It's a hassle on that part of it. So we're rolling the dice, and we're trying to, we want to be where mobile's the first call for everything, basically. And then, then we can kind of bird dog it back into our main shop and have that connection there.
All right.
Jeremy,
I love that outlook, John. Before you say that, I love the outlook of, we want to make mobile the first choice and push stuff to the dealership afterwards. Sorry about that, John. Go ahead.
Hey man, and with 19 trucks running today, and only Ed and Jeremy know how many more in the pipe, but I'm sure it's a lot. Yeah, I agree. I've got a question. This is a little bit of a devil's advocate question, because I get this from my dealers. Guys, from Bozard, does it hinder your fixed right, or does it hurt your 5-star that you go out and diagnose it and maybe not be able to fix it on the first visit? Because I'm not being like rhetorical. These are questions I get back from my dealers. They're afraid to do that because they're worried about their 5-star. What's your thought on that?
We hadn't had no issues with it yet. It's actually, to me, it's been the opposite, because I have so many stories where the customer will give us a perfect score every single time, and we failed. We should have got a 0 for this experience, but somehow, because our mobile guys and the customer sees that we made this huge effort to try to solve their problem, then it really overcomes a lot of obstacles and stuff like that. And that's what really the main, I get it. Everybody's worried about this and that, but if the customer's not coming back and the customer's not having that top-notch experience, because I believe that once we get this mobile stuff figured out, and we're very close to getting a lot of this stuff figured out, when people think of, what's a great customer, what's a great company that has the best customer experience? I'm tired of people saying Chick-fil-A. I'm tired of people saying all this. I want them to say Bozard Ford has the best customer service, where not just in the automotive industry, everywhere. And that's where our focus is on that part of it. And that's going to carry, 5 stars, just a low number. Let's go to 10 or whatever we can go to.
Yeah. Hey, Dave, just for maybe information, if you didn't know this, it's statistically proven that mobile delivers higher CSI, substantially higher. That's
the relationship value, right?
Yeah. Yep.
That's great. And Jeremy, to your point, if Chick-fil-A can get mostly high school kids to say "my pleasure" after every single thing, there is no reason that we can't get our well-paid dealership team members to take care of our customers.
I am so excited about this new generation of techs coming through. These young guys, they are hungry.
Yeah.
Because everybody says, "Oh, I can't find technicians. I can't find these young guys to work." We don't have that problem. There's a lot of key things with, just like you said, for them to say "my pleasure." It's like, they want to be a part of something cool. They want to be a part of something that they want to have a voice. These young, here's going to be the kicker for everybody. The people I'm hiring, they don't want to work on flat rate. They're not commission driven people. They want to have a good time doing their job.
Yep.
And so we give it to them. They want to have a flexible schedule. If they want to take a day off, they don't want to give crap from their manager about, "Oh, you took a day off." We're going to make it work. And in turn, my customers are saying how great these technicians are. And it blows me away how, we're in this old stinking thinking that everybody needs to be flat rate, because that's how I grew up. And sometimes I slide back into that old thinking. It's like, that don't make any sense. It's like, when I was your age, I want to make a lot of money. And well, shoot, it's not important to them. That's not they want to have this cool community. They can be a part of something that nobody else is doing. And be a part of that. And that's where, we had 34 techs on our mobile team. And I believe my oldest tech on the fleet side and all my light maintenance, they may be 34. That may be my oldest person. Rest of them are 20, 21, 22.
Yep.
And they absolutely love it. They get to pet people's dogs. That was one of their highlights, is like, and it's the stuff we don't even think about. One guy loves, because he can go to different places for lunch. It's like, let's pick this restaurant. And that's a big deal to him. And it's crazy. And these guys are getting 100% surveys, top-notch scores. And it's just pretty cool to see these young guys just take ownership and really embrace it.
Yeah, Dave, and Jeremy, regarding that, that there are teeth grinding and blood shooting out of eyeballs from the congregation.
Oh yeah. Yeah. I went ahead and put myself out on there. I'm going to hear it.
No, but that's exactly the problem, is that they don't get it. This generation is about life balance. It's about, like you said, it's about community. It's about loving your job. It's about flexibility. And the great thing with mobile is back to setting the tone. You don't have to be, the mobile schedule doesn't have to be the same as the shop schedule. It doesn't have to be a Monday through Friday, 8 to 5. It could be whatever you all want it to be, because it's a blank piece of paper. And this is why there's a divide between those who get it and those who don't get it, because what you just said is so sacrilegious to what we've all grown up with. Some guys just can't, guys and gals, they just can't get their head around it. But I'm with you, man, 100%.
Yeah, it is truly a different generation that's out there, and we need to be able to adapt to that. It's not for these other generations to adapt to our misinformed views of the world, right? All right, another quick break here for the stat of the week, brought to you by Parts Edge. This is from a Cox Automotive study. In 2023, dealerships accounted for 30% of all service visits in the U.S. That was down from 35% in 2021. And so this goes back to what we talked about originally, whether this was increasing customers or it was the same customers and things. But the reality is some of those dealership visits are going down. And there's 1,000 factors that we could do 1,000 different shows on for that. But we're gonna move into segment 3 here. The segment to close us out, and it's how does a dealer get started? So somebody's watching this show today and going, 19 trucks and 34 techs. Like I don't even know where to start. So how does somebody get involved in mobile service if they are at the point where they've said, I think I need to try this out? How do they start? What's the first step?
So I think if, instead of just trying, they just need to fully commit to it, and they don't need to fully commit to a full scale, and I mean fully go in, both feet in with one truck. see what happens. They don't have to scale it as large as anything, because every dealership's different. Everything's unique. But if you really want to do it, then I would start with one truck, one technician. Keep it simple at first, and you'll work out, because everybody's issues are going to be different when they come along. Um, but if you're on the fence about it, I would say don't do it, because it can be challenging, but it's the most rewarding thing we can do in a dealership is mobile service. So that's my suggestion, is just make sure everybody's committed for it, because it doesn't work if you're divided in the dealership. So if the top isn't invested in it, then it's probably not going to work. It's just going to be what somebody said yesterday, a lawn ornament in the dealership basically is what it becomes, or a storage unit for other stuff. But that's how I would start it.
All right.
Yeah.
And go ahead, John.
I like I said, I've done a lot of work with Ford, and also a lot with Mercedes-Benz on their program. And there's a how-to from the beginning with a blank piece of paper. And Jeremy's point spot on. You start out simple, probably just do recalls only. At first, I wouldn't do any fluid services until you're really comfortable with the process and the equipment and everything. Keep it simple. And again, follow the cadence, come up with a mobile service menu that makes sense, and then you can evolve from there. And I call it crawl, walk, run. Maybe try to do 2 appointments a day, and then maybe 3, and then just kind of work your way up. And there's a definite how-to. I mean, the OEMs have spent the time and the money to develop these how-tos. And if I would say this, if you're a dealer that's not under an OEM that has a program, there's a community of people out there that there's a community of great guys like Ed and Jeremy and other really, really sharp, aggressive mobile players who are generous with their knowledge and expertise. And of course, there's guys like me who can come into your store too. So, but but don't do it unless you're committed, because, and I talk about this sometimes with dealers. I said, there's lenses. There's the 8.5 by 11 lens, which is, I got to make money this month or else. Then there's the long view. Am I going to be in the car business 5 years from now? And if you're going to be in the car business 5 years from now, you need to get on the train, because it's not going to get easy. We're under attack right now by the ISPs and the chains. We are absolutely under attack. And one of the things that we talk about in our leadership camps and our different talks is, you can see a brick and mortar business going up on the corner. There's a new Take 5, or there's a new Pep Boys or whatever, but you don't know what's happening behind the scenes. So what we do in our seminars, our talks, we ask everybody to go in and Google mobile car service near me, and put your dealer zip code in, or your personal zip code in, and they're just shocked at the amount of competition that's already out there that's beneath the surface that you don't see. And it's a real eye opener. So we need to guard against that erosion of maintenance loyalty, because if we don't do the mobile, someone else is going to do it. No doubt.
And so with the few minutes we have left, some of the other consideration, you've decided you're going to start, right? You're going to go all in on that one truck. What about staffing? Do we need anybody additional to a mobile service technician? Is there anybody additional in parts that we need? Any additional in insurance? And we don't have to get technical and legal about that, but is there different insurance that you have now that you're sending mobile units out on the road than you would have had previously?
So as far as the staffing, I feel like if you're going to go in it, you do need to staff it. Because what we typically do, and it's that dealership mindset, that we find somebody that's pretty decent at their job, and it's like, hey, I think you can do this also. And you kind of stage it that way. And when you do it that way, you're really not doing anything good, because then it becomes a negative. It becomes and then the talk through the dealership, and it's hard to get it back going again. So it is nice to have a dedicated technician and a dedicated advisor on that part, and different people with different softwares. The parts is very, it's challenging, because you have to work 2 days in advance, basically, because it's not like you had a vehicle in the shop. So you have to be proactive. And when parts is bought in, they're all they're very proactive people in parts, so they definitely help out tremendously. And just keep that tight triangle pretty tight right there, and stand alone. And like John said, there's plenty of recalls you can keep somebody busy just going around doing software updates. And you can do 4 or 5 of those a day easy and pay for itself.
Excellent. Interesting. So question, and I actually meant to do this in segment 2. When are the trucks getting loaded up? Is this getting done early in the morning? Is it getting done the night before? And how are you handling the parts that are needed for each appointment?
So yes to all your, because so in the perfect world, I would love for them to stage those parts at night and they load the truck up. So in the morning, they can go right to that first appointment. Yeah. But with the scheduling can changes. So there's a little odd and end thing. So 80% of the time we do it the day before. So when that technician comes back, he's already, the parts is seeing our schedule. So parts have been the crucial thing of all of this because they're so proactive. They're looking at that schedule, make sure if the parts ordered is here. We have these totes in our parts department that's labeled truck this, truck 1, truck 2, and they go ahead and stage that part. So all the technician has to do is go in his tote, pull his parts, put it in his van, and he's done. In the morning time, we just communicate through our software that, hey, I need a part for this RO, and they're on the spot. So that happens in the morning sometimes if a schedule got changed and stuff like that, because we still have the same, struggles at every dealer. Some people get sick, so you have to reroute that truck to another appointment. You just adapt and overcome that stuff. So it's a lot of shifting and stuff like that, but it all works out.
Mm-hmm. All right. And so what about additional parts? Let's say floor mats, wiper blades, bulbs in case there's a directional out or a headlight out, something like that. Do the trucks carry those type of items?
Yeah, so they carry the oil filters, air filters, cabin filters, and wiper blades, all the fast moving drain plugs. We do run across where, we don't have the right part, and we have a group chat, and they just message like, hey, is anybody at the dealership? And somebody's always at the dealership or passing close through it. And these guys make it work. So they'll pick up parts and deliver them to wherever they're at, and then they go to their appointment. So it's definitely, you got to have people that has just get it done mentality that you run into situations like that. And let's say if you have a check engine light, and because we're a Ford dealership, with our experienced guys, they kind of know it may be this part or that part. And we have parts, we just carry those 2 parts on the truck and see whatever one that needs. So, with the Ford Pass, we're looking at diagnostic codes right before we leave it so we can stage those parts. And if we don't use them, we return them the parts. If we do, we just follow that process.
Jeremy brought up a good point about one technician grabbing parts to deliver to another technician. That doesn't happen when you're on flat rate.
That's for sure.
So good luck.
That's the magic of, and that's the magic of that having the right pay plan for mobile, because it's a different animal. And when I think that dealers fail when they try to squeeze it into that standard dealership mold, it's a different business.
It does. So in that group chat, if a technician is struggling with something, you'll have 2 or 3 respond and say, hey, I'll be there in 10 minutes. And, we've had 3 trucks in one spot before just to get stuff done, because techs have bad days. And that's one thing we forget. We kind of beat down on them. But when you have a bad day, everything you touch goes wrong because you can't get out of your mindset. So it's always good to have that other, another team come in and help out, and then help it resolve it and stuff. So you're right, John, that team effort really shines when you have the right pay plan.
Jeremy, I was a tech for 4 years, and I had one of those days every day. That's why I'm not a tech anymore.
That's right.
Hey, I get that. I worked for my dad in his body shop, and I got fired by my dad.
There you go. All right, everybody. This has been a really fast hour. I want to thank Jeremy Stevens, John Schmidt, our lone remaining audience member, Ed Roberts, hiding down there at the bottom. Thank you, everybody who is out there watching, everybody who will rewatch this on Tuesday at 8 p.m. We appreciate you being here. And the industry thanks you for all those who believe that mobile service isn't necessary. I think these guys just proved you wrong. We need to get out there and get ahead of it and take care of our customers in the way that they want to be taken care of. So again, Jeremy, John, thank you so much. And we will see everybody next week.